Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about entry level. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what should I know before applying for an entry level software job? Well, first and foremost, you should know that the first job is usually the hardest for IT professionals. The reason being that uh, the job is fairly complicated, all things considered. It takes practice to get good as a software developer or a DevOps engineer or a pen tester or something like that. It's a knowledge-based job, if that makes sense. And if you don't know so much, it becomes difficult for you to be truly productive. Now that of course goes away when you do the job, which is sort of the catch-22 that some feel a little bit of frustration over, because a lot of companies want even the most junior profiles to have some experience before they're going to take quote unquote a risk on you and consider you for a position. So the thing that you want to do is to make yourself as attractive as you can humanly do, and I'll talk a little bit about tips and tricks that you can use to do that. The second thing to be worth knowing is that you have probably heard that there is a high demand for software developers and generally IT people. I would say quite a lot of people in IT are missing, and that is true, but usually it is true for, as I said, the ones who have experience, because they, when they are really good or they know their stuff, they're basically equivalent to money for a company who has learned how to leverage their talents. Now, you can't just magically make money from IT, but if you have figured out how to sustainably make money from digital services, the more people you have, the better, because it basically equates into how fast you can deliver, how many projects you can have ongoing at the same time. So for you, on the other hand, you are not at that stage where they can just slot you in and then you just start producing value with minimum training, because like a senior level profile will usually be able to do something like that. In some cases, they don't even require more than maybe a day or two, so like basic introductions to things that they can just immediately start producing. For you, you're going to need training, which is the main thing for you to understand. Your first and foremost thing to find as quickly as possible is a place of work where they will make an investment into your future. Ideally, you should work with a team with more experienced profiles or something like that, because once you receive that training, you very quickly become self-reliant, which is one of the things that IT companies are looking for. You need to have that experience to one part be able to work with other people, of course, but also to be able to produce by yourself, because as we software developers work, we don't always it's more common that you work on a feature or like a piece of work by yourself, and then you can ask for help, but you don't really do the it's not like you have somebody next to you all the time who's helping you with the coding all the time. You're gonna have to be able to produce by yourself with assistance, if that makes sense. And as I said, when you're a senior, you're basically expected to be able to run most things. Like in essence, they should be able to ask you practically anything, and you will figure it out within reason, of course. So what you want to focus on is, as I said, find a place of work where you can receive that sort of support, which limits immediately the amount of jobs that you can find, because as I said, it's not that many companies who have that mindset about how they train juniors. And a lot of them might not even hire a junior software developer, but a lot of them do. And if you find those, then it narrows a little bit further, which is that now you are one among probably many juniors who are going to look for a job in that specific position. And now comes the most important part, what you can do. And the thing that you can do is that you can create a CV and a profile of learning and a profile of projects that you have done that clearly shows that you are very passionate and hungry to learn and evolve as a software developer. The most important thing, every single I promise you every single one of the companies that are hiring junior profiles are going to be looking for is how likely am I going to be to find that this person is a nice time to have in the office, and they're probably going to learn really, really quickly because they're so passionate about this job. They really care and they want to do good. That is the thing that matters. The hunger for knowledge, the hunger to improve, the hunger for this industry. And the best way for you to communicate that is not necessarily just to say it, you have to prove it. And the way you prove it is by having a CV that shows that you've taken a lot of courses on different programming concepts, you have coded your own projects that you feel something about. It's very I usually say this to say that quality over quantity here, guys. You don't have this it's not so important, or it's not very relevant for companies to see that you have made 100 Hello World applications or 100 to-do apps or something very simple or silly like that, because it proves nothing. It proves that you can basically go online and follow a tutorial, because that is what most will assume that you have been doing. But on the other hand, if you create a truly unique product to yourself, for you, something that you didn't probably just go to as like any random YouTube channel and just follow along with, something that you have created, that you made, and that you can talk passionately about and explain why you made it, what was good, what was bad, etc., etc. You did some real thinking on this thing. That is something that's impressive. It's a little bit of a hobby project, if that makes sense, something that's real. That is more important than how many of these demo applications that you can make. You need to have the skills, of course. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't do demos, because learning by itself, I mean, a great way for a classic one for that front-end developers should consider is, right, take any web page and try to recreate it. Just try it. That's going to teach you a lot about CSS, for example, or HTML, etc., etc. So there's a value in creating a lot of projects, but it's also very important for the employers to see that you really care. And you don't have to do projects. You can do many things. You can blog, or show that you write articles about what you have written, what you have learned, etc., etc. And I mean, if you publish or contribute to open source packages or projects or something like that, that's also something that's going to stand out. Or maybe you're into lead coding. It's really about finding out a almost slightly creative expression for that you want this job, or you want to do this thing because you really find IT interesting, not because it's just a 9-to-5 type of thing that you're just doing for money. Because the thing that is most attractive in practically everyone in IT, apart from skill levels and so forth, is their hunger to do well. Because I can promise you guys, the vast majority of IT companies, and practically anybody, if you really think about it, wants to deal with someone who really likes what they're doing. And they're more likely to invest in such a person when it's time to hire someone that they might have to train a little bit than they will invest in someone who only went to school or only did the courses and now doesn't really have any hunger, or doesn't prove that they have that steam to go and do things by themselves. Because if they suspect that you're probably not going to learn on your own time or go the extra mile to get really good at this thing, they're probably just going to say, no thank you, we'll go to somebody else. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you are looking for an entry-level job, you should first and foremost know that the first job can be a little bit trickier than other jobs, but it's not because it's something weird with you. Usually it is because the industry is designed that way. The reason is very simply that it's an expert field where if you want to make real money, usually you need to have someone who knows what they're doing. And that's not going to be a junior level software developer in the beginning of things. And so the best bet for you is to make sure that you have a nice CV, make sure that you have personal projects that mean something to you, that you can talk a little bit about and explain why you made them. practice, 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 show coursework, etc., etc. Try to go the extra mile and really invest, because that investment is the thing that's going to make you stand out in the beginning. And the thing that you are selling, the thing that you want people to think when they see your CV and they talk to you, is that this person really likes this. They find IT interesting, they're learning all these tools, and they're playing around on the weekends or like on their spare time with different projects or learning from other sources. Because that's what they want. They want to see that if I'm gonna train you, you're gonna appreciate that, and you're gonna learn fast, and you're gonna learn on your own time, and you're gonna show that hunger and passion that I was talking about. Because if you can show that, they will take a chance on you, and then you get you into the industry, and it just takes maybe a year or two. It doesn't take that long. We're still counting a year or two at the very least before you get to a profile level where less of that is relevant. I promise you this much. The difference between how interesting you are in the job market when you have never worked and after just a year or two is it's very hard to explain. The difference is massive. When you get to be my age, or like we get to have been doing this for as long as I have, and if you can still show that you have passion, you don't even really have to ask for a job if you don't want to. You're gonna get contacted by people just because the demand is so high. But that, as I said, that's the biggest tip I can give you. Show people that you care about learning software and programming, and you find this stuff interesting, and I promise you they're going to see that fire in your eyes, and that's going to get you noticed. Maybe a little bit trickier in the beginning, but later on in life you're not going to have any problems whatsoever. Have a great day.